Hey everyone, welcome to No One Tells You. And today I'm joined with Afif Zaman, who is the co founder and CEO of Bizhub. Um, and I met Afif through a very funny story that maybe we'll touch upon towards the end of this. But yeah, I met Afif and instantly it was very relatable talking to him because I could tell that where he's from and the struggles that he's gone through and the sort of business that he's doing, and mashallah it's going well for him and his company as well. So with me and Afif, it's been a few months that we've known each other, but it seems like we've known each other for a lot longer. And so yeah, I thought that I'll bring Afif in, ask him a few questions, um, you know, try to get out of him that how he does what he does. And before I tell you guys anything more about BizHub or Afif himself, I'll just bring him in. Hi Afif, Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. I am good. What about you?
Doing well, alhamdulillah.
I basically thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on this platform, by the way. Like it's something that's very creative and taking a step towards making sure that people get to hear the other side is pretty crucial. It's nice. Thanks.
Yeah, man, you're most welcome, and thanks for being one of the first to agree to doing this. I hope we can do more of these things. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on board. Thanks for taking out the time. So, Afif, before I dive into my questions, why don't you just give us a very quick, brief intro of who you are, what is BizHub, all of that.
So I'm I'm 26 years old, and this is basically a second entrepreneurial journey of mine, which I started off with this, which was about like in 2023. I started off with this along with my partner, who's also a childhood friend of mine. And what we basically do is we are a business setup company and we help individuals with setting up their businesses here in the UAE. And our aim is to basically ensure that we help an individual relocate and we help them settle them down over here. So this consists of taking care of their license procedures if when they want to set up a company over here. And after that, we help them with their visa requirements as well. And once we've basically provided them with the visa is when we tend to take care of their post-business requirements, such as banking assistance, which is something that's pretty crucial and everyone needs it, and to ensure that all the companies over here in the UAE cater to the rules and regulations that FTA has to offer, which is why we help them with accounting and bookkeeping services as well. And this particular journey was it was pretty crucial because it triggered one particular feeling in me when it comes down to running a business that um, when we want to run a business, we shouldn't always just think of the monetary benefits, but we got to look at the other way itself, and that is how exactly are we able to help someone out. Now, um, before we could have started off with this company, I used to work in a business setup company as well, and I spent about like a year and a half over there. So for me, when I was in that company, I used to treat it like a proper chore. And that is just my responsibility is to wake up in the morning, go over there, and then leave by 5 and not think about what happened over there or reflect onto it, right? And this went on for quite some time until one particular day I had met a person in a corridor and he was pretty frustrated actually. When I had approached him asking him what exactly is the concern, he he decided to sit down with me and then he explained his concern, and that is uh, he got a lot of fines for not paying for the parking over here in the UAE. And he had taken a rent a car because he was a tourist in short, and he was just struggling with the fact as to how exactly can he pay it off, because now he's just like having fines accumulating itself and he doesn't even know how to pay for the parking. And then when I basically just explained to him that this is the process as to how it's done, it's very simple. You just have to send an SMS. He appreciated that brief answer quite a lot. And that is when I understood that in this industry, you're basically dealing with people that are coming from outside of the country. And I basically placed myself in their shoes and I went like, all right, fine, if I have to go to the States or any other country and I want to start something off over there, because it's not a small decision to begin with. Person that helps me out is pretty crucial itself, because we can be the ones that either turn their experience into a nightmare over here, or we ensure like, that they have a pleasant time. So when I understood this piece is when I started feeling that, all right, I need to take a step forward to be able to help these people out, and I want to make sure that their documentation is completely seamless. So that is what prompted me to get onto this journey.
I mean, I get the passion behind the help that you want to give people, and that's really great. But behind all of this story, there must have been one aha moment, or one, like, oh, I know this, and no one tells you this moment in your journey. Maybe when you were working in your previous company. So, was there any specific client or any specific moment that made you realize that, hey, this is a real problem to solve? I got to get into this.
There was this client when I used to work in the business setup company previously, and the issue that he had basically faced was that he had made the payments to apply for his visa renewal. However, the visa was not applied for, and his grace period had passed by, and fines were accumulating. And this was basically an operational error that had taken place. So I was basically given the responsibility to communicate this to the client, to ask from them for the fine. And I mean, like, people are pretty sharp. Like, there's no denying that itself, right? So he figured it out and he was pretty agitated, and he was consistent over the fact that it was not him that had delayed with making any sorts of payments. So any liabilities that come along the surface is not going to be upon him, and he was pretty adamant on it. And obviously, I had to communicate this to the senior management itself. And at the end of the day, the management did decide to cater to the expenses, but then I started understanding the the concern and the stress that the client had bared during that small space of time, wondering like, if they're going to cover it or not, or basically just having this major concern that, all right, fine, now that my visa is expired, am I allowed to be inside the country? Do I need to exit? This entire roller coaster of mind and thoughts was must have been pretty concerning. So this is purely like, one of the reasons as to why I say that this particular service cannot be treated as um, with this focus of a monetary benefit itself, but it should be with the aim that you gotta help someone out with settling down over here. Because again, moving countries is not something minor, and when we speak of documentation, it's a pretty overwhelming topic, because upon expiry, you start overthinking what happens if you get caught, etc. So there's a lot of attachments as well, your bank account, your finances. So we need to learn to understand that we have to help someone out, and that's the aim where I started moving forward.
Yeah, no, great. Which leads me to my next question, actually, which is basically, I moved to Dubai as well, almost 2 years now, and this is something that we all hear when we're planning the move. The marketing is done in such a great way of Dubai overall, is that it's the easiest place in the world to set up a company, to move, you know um and I believe it is. I mean, for sure it is. But from your experience, what are the hidden hurdles or surprises that no one talks about when starting a business?
Um, So first things first is we do have to admit that setting up a company in the UAE is pretty seamless, and the documentation required is very less. And the only documentation that is required to set up a company over here consists of your passport copy, in short, right? But uh, this basic term has been widely promoted to an extent where there are a couple of factors that have been considered for people that want to set up a company over here, and it has a lot to do with nationality. It has a lot to do with the type of business that they're looking to open. So the thing that people make mistakes over is not really understanding their aim of setting up a company over here, considering that the UAE has offered two different types of jurisdictions for different businesses to be set up, especially all across the seven states. So first thing that people make a mistake over is not taking enough information, not gathering enough information to setting up a company over here, and that's where they actually end up getting stuck, because we as service providers, we feel that our aim is to basically set up the company and provide it to the client, but um, they need to understand what exactly is required from their end itself, so that they're completely aware as to how the country operates exactly. So they the thing over here is that they need to educate themselves a bit more, and the best part over here is there are like so many people out there, like, that provide free consultations, and there's a lot of information available online as well with regards to this. And as tiny as this concern is, it plays a major role itself. So it's
Hmm.
got nothing with the country's dynamics of allowing a setup to take place over here, or the documentation, but it's got a lot to do with how they understand how the process works, because of the amount of jurisdictions that are here, which is vast majority for the government to offer people to set up their businesses. So yeah.
Yeah, I think one example that I can share about myself is, and I think you might remember this as well, is the FTA corporate tax
Yeah.
registration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that no one told me, and the only thing that I knew was that as long as you're below a certain threshold of revenue, you're good, And I was like, yeah, man, I mean, for my first year or so, I'm going to be below that threshold, so I'm not going to bother about any registrations. The government is going to take care of itself. And then I got slapped with a
ten
fine
thousand.
of
Yeah.
10,000 dirhams. Yeah, exactly, of 10,000 dirhams for not registering for the corporate tax. And I was
Mm,
like,
mm.
wait, no one told me this. And when I contacted my PRO who did the company for me, he was like, oh, it's no big deal. मुझे भी fine आया हुआ है. So I was like, okay, sure, but what do I do now? And thankfully, they rolled out this plan to waive the penalties if you file your uh, what's it called? File your taxes before a certain time, and it got waived. But that was something that I had no idea about. I mean, honestly, I was not educated enough. And there's a friend here who told me that, look, it's no one's fault, it's your fault. You should have read up on these things. And I'm like,
Correct.
yeah, but I'm paying someone, and they're getting paid as well, of this whole ecosystem. It's a business. They should have at least told me. I would have done the registration by myself, honestly. But yeah, I mean that's one of the hidden things I think that might not be so hidden. Um, uh,
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, totally. Because again, the thing over here is that um, so UAE has been in the gray list for a long period of time, and they just got out of it, right? So one of the main reasons as to why they were in a gray list is because the method of how a company was being formed over here, and no companies over here had the need to submit their financials to the government, because the country operates on a zero tax basis itself. So this move of ensuring that they get out of the gray list allows them to take these steps, and that is to introduce new tax laws, in short, which is not beneficial for the country, but it's beneficial for for the companies, for the business owners that are setting up their businesses over here. So when people basically see a new update that's coming, or it's a news that's circling around, they tend to ignore it because they feel that okay, there's leniency over here, so that's perfectly all right. But
Yeah.
the government is so adamant on the change that they're planning on bringing because they want to create a system around it all.
And the change
So
happens very quickly as well, right?
and it happens very quickly as well, which is why there are so many government channels over here that do provide notices, and they provide updates which come directly from the government itself. So this element piece, they've put it out there so that people can keep up with the updates that are taking place on a regular basis, which leads to a person that having to check on their own. Now because these are new rules itself, even when it comes down to a service provider that's helping you out, that's probably an education piece for them as well. So
Yeah, yeah.
full reliance on a service provider is pretty much not entirely helpful as well when it comes down to leaving everything entirely upon them. So the whole aim of having a service provider is for you to have someone who can cater the tasks for you. But
Exactly.
education is something like that has to be done regardless, even if you don't do the work all by yourself. But knowing about it is crucially important because it's sensitive. People can take advantage of this piece and start charging you a hefty amount as well when the process can be simple. Um, it's a plus point for you to educate yourself all in all itself.
It always is. I think in any line of business, whether you're a vendor or a client, you always got to be more informed than you previously were. I absolutely agree. So, okay, so just a small question on that. If you had a magic wand right now,
Okay.
what's one thing that you would change or one thing that you would do to save founders from making all of these mistakes?
Um, you know, uh, this is something that I wanted to answer previously as well. In addition, and that is, UAE has basically made the process so seamless, where you can set up your company within the space of one day itself, where the mindset of a person that wants to set up a business entirely changes in short. So it's more like, okay, you thought of a business idea, everything like looks perfect to you in your mind, so you just proceed ahead and you set up a company because you also basically go like, all right, it's very easy to set up a company, so let's just get one set up. But when you look at it, the timing aspect is so important over here. If you look at other countries in short, they basically have a very lengthy setup process where they ask for several documents like bank statements,
Yeah, yeah,
prior KYC information like potential suppliers and customers for business setup itself. So this particular piece, as deemed as mandatory in other countries, allows people to firmly plan as to what exactly their business is going to be about and how are they going to operate it. So here in the UAE, if a person wants to set up a company, they have to follow these protocols regardless because it's a basic business model. And that is to understand their plan and interconnect it with the type of jurisdiction that the country has to offer, which could benefit them in various formats itself. Like just
yeah.
giving one blind example, free zone being the foreign jurisdiction itself has a lot to do with businesses that are based outside and are looking to either set up their operations over here in terms of being a representative office or being a virtual business in short, because it does not require you to have a physical presence. So if people who are looking to be, let's say, like set up an e-commerce business, which is a pretty booming industry, or let's say they wanna start off with a consulting business, they don't need to spend so much of money. They can basically pay a very minimal fee, which in general are the costings in a free zone as compared to a mainland, and they can start off with their business. So business owners that want to start a company over here can save themselves way too much if they are able to understand what their business is going to look like, so that they can approach the right jurisdiction, which keeps them in a right frame of mind to start off with a business and slowly scale it up. And ideally as well, the government over here, they are helping businesses out by inputting these tiny barriers, which is for the betterment itself, like introducing a tax law. Just just speaking on it briefly, which is the corporate income tax, and that is only because it is for these people that are setting up businesses over here to stabilize what they're doing exactly. So it's all about creating a structure with with minimal flaws that is going to allow them to be able to scale it, which can bring more money to the country, increase the economy of it, and create a more trustable environment when it comes down to a particular industry.
Hmm. Right. Okay. So right. So okay. Coming back to that, what's what's that magic wand moment then?
The the magic wand moment for me as to how exactly I can bring a change to this
Yes. Yeah.
is I would basically I would really look into the government being able to improve their communication channels, in short, by giving prior updates is what I would tend to do. And um I I would basically be able to convert myself into a proper channel as well, so that I can keep people up to date about this
Hmm.
piece. So
Right.
there's this connection, right? Where there's a government that's involved along with corporate services providers. So there's a middle person over here that's providing the information. So having further access to this would be beneficial. And as a magic wand, that is what I would do to be able to
Okay.
make it
So
happen.
so basically, increase or improve the way the communication is channeled to the prospects who are trying
Exactly.
to move or who are in fact already here. Because I can tell you that I have a registered business here, and there's so many things that I don't know right now. I might know about them when I'm in the thick of it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I knew them before, and they might as well be laid out in some document that the government has already published years ago, but it's just that it doesn't come to me that way. But I guess that's also how businesses operate in the rest of the world, right? I mean, when they get into it, then they see, oh, it just broke.
That's true, but at the end of the day, when we basically state that this is the best place where you can start off with a business and run it and scale it up, there has to be an element of support that can
Yeah,
exist, and communication is a very important factor when it comes
I
down to
agree.
scaling a particular business. Because on the basis of the updates that you're provided with or the information that you've consumed, your plans to set up a business acts accordingly. So there's a lot of tiny details, in short. So everyone basically portrays the first facade of setting up a company, and that's basic information where they say that, cool, you
Exactly.
can set up a company with a passport and this and that only. But then there are so many questions behind it as well, because change of human mindset, right? Like, for example, let's just say, all right, cool, I plan on um changing my ownership and giving 50% of it away. So that process, how does it work? What are the implications? How does it impact? All of these are critical information pieces, in short. So if this is out there, then it helps a person plan their business model accordingly, so that they can refrain from being able to commit these mistakes. So it all starts from
Yeah, yeah,
communication, which is such an important aspect.
I agree. I agree. No, no, that's a good thought. So you mentioned corporate tax, and there are rumors of more taxation coming in the future, or maybe an income tax on people coming in as well. Because right now UAE does not enforce a income tax on salaried individuals or even business owners for that matter on their personal income, right? So with all of these things happening, it can get a little confusing, right? So what do you think needs to happen in that way, like for a business owner, speaking strictly between us, right? Like you're a business owner, so am I. Do you think we underestimate the impact of tax or taxation on our scale?
Um, I mean, we for those that have been doing business for a very long period of time over here, because they've never come across such implications that involve tax. So it's this mindset, right? Like when you look at countries outside, you have it mentally set, like, that there's a couple of uh, figures from your account that's going to go away to the government. And that is a habit that we've not developed over here as of yet.
Mm.
So now the steps that the government is basically taking to ensure that people have this mindset that tax is an actual thing over here is something that the government is working on effectively itself, and they want it to change. So the seriousness of taxation over here is to be considered, and the people over here, they are underestimating it, but it's also because it's a new concept that's been introduced entirely, that is moving into effect, so it is taking a while for people to be able to consume it.
Yeah.
But um, again, answering the same thing itself, and that is that we are underestimating it, but we're also supposed to understand that we're not supposed to fear about it, because the concept and the purpose behind this is entirely different from what you've probably witnessed in your country, out of the UAE, basically.
Yeah.
Over here, first things first, it's minimal taxes. I mean, as it stands, there's no personal income tax. And as we've basically discussed itself, that the communication is such a key. However, on current basis as to how it's being played out, we've never been informed that personal income taxes is going to happen.
Gonna
Let's
happen
consider
like this.
the country has
Yeah.
no personal income tax at all. Yeah, and the only thing that stands is the corporate income tax. So initially, at the very beginning, they requested all the companies out there to register for it. So people, they neglected it. Then they introduced the concept of giving a 10,000 dirhams fine. So this brought in a bit of fear. There was a fear
Mm.
factor that played a role over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Companies started registering for it. However, the government was pretty lenient about this piece as well, because they gave a period of 90 days for a business to be able to register themselves. So this consists of having a significant amount of time to learn about it.
Yeah.
So now the thing over here is, once once the fines have been set out, so people were basically trying to appeal for it, and as they basically appeal for it, is when the government introduces that, which is basically moving on to the next step, and that is to be able to capture onto people's finances over here. So they've basically said, all right, fine, anyone that files within a specific space of time, we will have their fines waived off. So people can look at it in two ways: that okay, we're being pressurized to submit our financials to the government, or they can basically think of it in this way, that okay, we're submitting our financials, and they've imposed a couple of restrictions to it, which is benefiting them to begin with, because the mindset that the government have brought over here is that you only pay 9% of the corporate income tax on your net profit that's going to go above 375,000 dirhams. So the government is giving an opportunity for what? For businesses to reinvest the money back into their business. Now, what this does over here is that this shapens the business, and it increases the chances of scalability, which helps the country's economy to begin with.
Exactly.
So, as an individual that's setting up a company over here, and as every other business owner should think, and that is, how can I stabilize my business in several aspects? And one of those aspects is finances. So, this particular piece is helping me out if I'm following it,
Mm.
in terms of having a business mentality as well, along with catering to the rules and regulations that the country has to offer, and expecting scalability to happen, because this brings a sense of certification to your efforts that have been put in to set up a business over here. So people
Still want to
are
tie
not
it.
underestimating it, but they're not supposed to, and they're supposed to treat it as uh, a positive decision to follow it.
Right. Right. No, I actually wanted to tie this up with the next question, which is because you said the companies should be reinvesting this. Then there are people who, take their own salaries from the business. They have to, obviously. And then there is capital injection coming from founders and, going back into the business as well. So that brings us to a very crucial aspect in the business, which is the accounting of it, right? Now, I've been victim to that. I've, left accounting to the gods, you know, and it just bites me back almost every time I've done that. So I'm sure you've seen that as well. Have you seen any business collapse because they ignored their books or their accounting?
100%. I have seen plenty of them because see the thing over here is the governments are issuing fines for those people like that are not complying to it. So let's just talk briefly about VAT. Value added tax filing takes place every quarter, every 3 months. So if you're not going to do it, then you're going to have about like 1,000 to 2,000 dirhams fine that will be there in your FTA portal. Now, these fines are going to be considered as bad debts itself. And I've seen businesses that have not paid this particular amount, and it's caused a lot of concerns amongst their industry as well because their suppliers, when they're applying for VAT file to claim the amount that they've paid to businesses that have registered for the VAT, and they're not getting it back, and the federal tax authority chasing these businesses, it leaves a negative impression within the market, and then they start losing business as well. So I've seen quite a couple of them, and they pe- people people don't understand that this particular step to submit finances are pretty simple as well. Now, what people are doing is they're treating this as they're treating this step as they're treating it in a very lenient manner, and they're trying to save costs on this piece as well. So over here, the concept is pretty simple. You have all of your financials ready, and then you'll have to submit it to the FTA portal, and there's a certain way of doing it, just like every other country. So what people are doing is sometimes they are approaching outsourced accountants who are based outside of the country to handle all of these things. Now, people outside, like for example, let's talk about India, they use Tally as an accounting software. But that particular concept is not widely used over here because over here, people use accounting softwares like QuickBooks or like Zoho. So the method of inputting data is very different over here, but very simple. So, yeah, like people need to be able to they need to be able to adhere to these tiny decisions, and they need to base everything over here to be able to follow this.
I think there's a certain fear in founders as well, and I can attest to that in the early days of business when I was running my own company in Pakistan. For some reason, I used to think that, if I'll put my books in order, I might see a number that will scare me, you know. So I
Yeah,
sort of, in my head, I sort of tried to avoid that reality till the tax boys were at my door, you know.
yeah, yeah.
And I've seen this so many times that I speak with people, and because I don't do that now, I am very, mindful about how the money is coming in, how is it going out, and all of that. I keep my books in order, the invoices and everything. But still, I speak to a lot of people who don't do this, who basically treat their money very randomly when it comes to their company, expenses and whatnot. So I think it's definitely something that a founder should not run away from. As you said, it's very easy, right? Yeah. Okay, so uh, let's talk about BizHub and you running BizHub and your perspective as its co-founder and CEO. I mean, you've probably seen thousands of business get created, right, by now. What is that one thing that separates those who, thrive and those who quietly shut down?
Um, I mean, again, it's pretty much got a lot to do with business planning in short. Now, when when a person understands that it's so simple to start off with a company over here, they completely forget that before you proceed ahead with the documentation, you need to be able to understand what exactly are you planning on doing. So when we look at it in the system, when we see, for example, in quarter one of 2025, one particular nationality had set up about like 4,500 businesses in short, and then like the next was
That a
about
lot.
like 3,600. Yeah,
Okay.
all in the space of one particular quarter itself, right? And the number of companies shutting down as well, like is about like 1,500. That's going on per quarter.
Wow.
Now, per nationality, by the way, of one quarter. So 1,500
Okay.
companies are shutting down. Now, the thing over here is people are setting up their businesses like, without having prior knowledge as to what exactly do they plan on doing over here.
Hmm.
Now, for these kind for people that are shutting it down, it's purely because they have not mentally prepared themselves to be able to exist in the market over here because it's this it's this it's this wave of chance out there, like where people say that okay, Dubai is the easiest place to make money, and like you're going to be successful over here, and all it takes is basically like just to start off with a company. So for those that are basically just taking up the decision of starting off with a business over here instantly, are they're on the path to basically to shutting down in short. So when we talk about the ones that are striving over here, it's because they have understood the country very well. Now, UAE is basically a country where people from all over the world are coming in. We're talking about digital nomads, social media influencers, content creators, celebrities, loads and loads of businessmen as well. Plenty of investments are taking place inside the country. So when you pay attention to this and you can see that there are specific industries that are booming over here and you act on it accordingly, you pay attention to how fast and in what pace is the country moving towards, that will help you in your business if you set something similar over there. So such businesses are thriving because they're keeping up to date with how the country is moving forward, in short. So there is an equal balance, is what I would say, because again the country is welcoming all kinds of people and there is no restrictions to it. So the UAE doesn't go like, all right, fine, only businessmen like can come in. All kinds of people can come in. Whether you're looking for a job, whether you're looking to start a business, whether you're looking to do something on a freelance. So the country is welcoming all kinds of people, and they're basically giving an opportunity for everyone to start at whatever pace they're willing to start off with. But people are utilizing this time frame of doing things on a quick basis on a very negative aspect itself, which is why it leads them to shutting down when they don't have a prior plan to it. So I mean, this is how I would
Interesting.
distinguish between a company thriving over here and a company shutting down.
So it's the lack of understanding the market, the lack of planning their business, their marketing activities, stuff like that, right? So eventually
Totally.
you would get shut down anywhere in the world, essentially, not just
Anywhere
Dubai,
in the
right?
world eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
The country is
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
simple. It follows the same protocol that pretty much every other country follows itself, but they just do it in a very lenient manner,
In
and
a
they
lenient.
don't input strict repercussions to it, unlike other countries. So, yeah.
Got it. As a founder yourself, what's something that you've learned the hard way in running a services business in Dubai? That no playbook could have prepared you for, no TED talk would have prepped you for. What is that one thing? Because you've been in Dubai for all your life, right? So, and you're 26 years old and you've been in business for quite some time now. So what's that one thing you learned the hard way?
Make sure every aspect of your business is completely genuine and there's no prints to it at all. So, what I mean by this is that um, I've had a couple of legal procedures that had taken place against my company, and it had taken about like a year and a half ago when we had initially started off itself, right? So the repercussions that I had faced was had a lot to do with um, with client involvements in short, where one particular company would say like, that we had taken their clients or anything or something as such,
Okay.
right? So there's a lot of guidelines that are to be maintained with regards to this. Even though I won that particular case, um, it's something like, that I had to basically do it the hard way itself, because when I had received the court letter, there was a lot of fear. I just started off with the business. I was pretty young to understand that this element of activity in a business is so crucial, where you have to maintain that everything that you're doing is has to abide by the law. When I went through the legal proceedings on behalf of the company, where I had to share all of the documents and I had to show all of the relevant proof that we had nothing to do with it, is when I understood that these are the things that I needed to have beforehand itself, and I had to prepare it in a organized manner. It is something that, of course, I mean, like, you pay a lawyer, you have to spend your time in it, and it is something like, that clogs onto your mind if where you start thinking, all right, fine, what if my business shuts down, or what I have to pay, or what if I have to pay a hefty amount of money. There's a lot of concerns that come around. So legal aspect is something that's crucial, and it's important, and it is something that it is something that you're not going to be considering, because you never really feel like, that you're going to be competing against someone on a legal basis.
Yeah.
You enter the industry, when you enter the market, people notice you. People have eyes, and I mean, like, it's all about eating one up over here, so that, like, you can continue in the industry. Survival is pretty pretty important. It's important. So to be able to survive and then look at the scalability involves you to look at this legal aspect very seriously, which I did not, because I didn't know about it, and I felt like, that it was not going to be a big deal, but it is a big deal. I had
How
to
about that, man?
by paying money and like, having a lawyer behind this, and I went through a lot of you could say, you got that mental stress, like, where you start thinking what can happen,
Mm.
and it leaves a negative impact on your business, because you're not focused on it to generate any sorts of sales, or see movement in your business, and it impacts it impacts a lot. So
No, that's I think that's good to know because honestly, I don't think that I'm ever gonna get dragged into a legal case here. But
yeah,
as you're saying, you gotta be mentally prepared that anything can go wrong. And in a country like Dubai, where even court cases move rather quickly, and it's all evidence based, right?
correct.
So yeah, you gotta have that stacked up. Got it, man. I hope all of that is resolved now and behind
All of
you.
that is resolved, in short. It just so just to speak in brief about it, it had a lot to do with us apparently, like, taking a client away, in short. So the concept over here is that if a client approaches you on their own will, then it means, like, that you've not taken it from someone else. So
Hmm.
it just took testimonial from the client itself for the court to understand that, all right, it's a customer's free will
Yeah.
over here to go to anyone that they want. It's not that you found it in your CRM system, so you're liable to the client.
Yeah.
Client
Yeah.
has a free will; he can go to anyone. This should not stop anyone from running their business. So that helped us out. So yeah.
So it's very illegal to steal someone's client here in Dubai.
It is. It is. I mean, like, for example, if you're working in a company and you're speaking to the clients that the company has put in a lot of money and efforts into to acquire, it's an act of theft, in short. However, if you're not associating yourself with the client, but the client is approaching you on their own, then it's a client's free will. So that
Yeah.
basically means that you've not taken them; they've approached you on their own. So it's very basic. It's a very basic understanding, or basic ethics, is what I would say, that they have used in the form of law to make sure that everyone is doing business fairly over here, and everyone is competing fairly over here, and putting in adequate amount of efforts to grow themselves.
Right. 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 Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. So Afif, you're fairly young. You're way younger than I am, and you're running a pretty good business, mashallah. So what is that one thing? Because I know that it's very stressful, and you gotta worry about your team, your clients. so many things. You got to pay your office rent, yada yada yada. So many things going on in your head. What is that one thing that has recently been told to you or has happened to you that has changed your perspective of business? Maybe, or maybe not. But what is that one recent switch in you personally that has changed your outlook for your business?
I mean, as a startup, there are so many things that you have to look into. And one of the most crucial things is sales, right? So you want to see money coming in so that you can basically have the business moving. So during these 2 years when the setup was taking place, all that we focused on was witnessing, how exactly can you bring money into the company. But that itself does not provide justice to a proper business that runs. So what opened my eyes over here is to what opened my eyes over here is to understand that documentation is a very crucial thing. So each and everything that you write down, each and everything that you document, each and every expense or finance or a lead or how it came from or the resource of it or what the conversation was and how long did it take or how long did it take for a process to go through for a client that's paid, how exactly can it be improved, all of these things are something that's to be looked into. So for me, after 2 long years when we've come to this subtle space where we're able to maintain the revenue that's coming in, um, what opened my eyes is to ensure that you can get something, but to keep something is way more important. And the only way you're going to be able to keep it is in businesses when you start documenting it and you start organizing what you're running exactly. So this is a very recent practice, that we all had started to do over here, and that is something that makes lives easier as well for a person that's working in short, because there's nothing jumbled up. If there's any existing documents that you need, you're going to have it. If you want to assess as to what's happening, or what is the current situation with a client, because it's documented, you have it, you understand it, and you know how to act accordingly. So I would say, just being responsible is something that that was a step, as it opened eyes that it plays a major role. And these steps, it's coming in because you have several other friends over here. It's very natural. I mean, anyone that's got about at least 3 4 friends or people that they know, at least one person is running a business for sure.
Yeah.
So um, I have a couple of friends of mine as well that are running businesses in different industries, and they've been doing this for the past 5 years and 6 years, and every action or every move that they've implemented for themselves, there's a topic that takes place where you talk about it, and then you learn and you take inspiration from it, and then you try it out as well. Because if it's helping someone out over here, regardless of the industry, but the country itself, if it's helping someone out, then it's going to help you out as well. Um, again, uh, being responsible is something that that is crucial. It's opened my eyes, and it's something that we any business owner that sets up a company over here has to follow.
Right, right. Okay, so last question. So, if you were to give someone an insider tip into moving to Dubai tomorrow to start a business, what would it be? And it has to be something that's not in your fancy brochures and websites and all. What would that be? Very insider.
I mean, on a personal note, I would say first find the passion as to why exactly do you want to move to a country like UAE. On a personal aspect, it's short, but if I were to look at it from a law, rules and regulative perspective, I would basically say, if you're planning on coming inside the country, then ensure that you have an idea of moving in over here, or being attached to this country in a certain way, because when you're tied down with the documentation pieces itself, it's something that reflects. Like, for example, if you're taking up a visa over here, it's renewable. It's not like a concept that the West follows, where after 3 years it's permanent or anything as such. It's something that's renewable. So your plan has to match the commitment that you plan on providing when you sign those papers. In short, again, I wouldn't really say that it's more like an insider tip, but it's something that's crucial, in short. So I would basically say, like, if you plan on coming over here, then you come over here for a long period of time, which, or if it requires you to move back and forth. But if it's just to explore the place, then I would say find the passion as to why exactly are you coming inside.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much, Afif, for taking out the time. And yeah, it's been great to have you. And we might have more of these discussions because I have so many other questions, but I don't want to jam them all up into one
That's
video.
okay.
So yeah,
No
we'll
problem.
do one more for sure. So yeah, thank you once again, and see you next time, man.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care, bro.